The following is brought to you by the Starfleet Podcast Network, SPN The Spin. This is the Starfleet Podcast Network. I am Big J with Beyond Trek Podcast. I'm joined here today with Strange Kirk and Handy from Trek Talk with Tech and Kirk. And let me turn off my phone because it figures that I would get a message notification as soon as we started going. I'm having a hard time getting going this morning. Like the weather is just, you know how you get that sleep in weather where you just really kind of can't get out of the bed because it's raining. It's kind of dark outside.
Oh, that's that bum ass weather right there, dude.
Oh, boys. How about you guys? How are you guys doing this morning?
Excellent.
Oh, good.
I ate food that I don't normally eat anymore yesterday, and so I woke up and lost a pound on the toilet. So I got that going for me. Yeah, we went to this. We went out yesterday, and there's this thing in downtown, on the Riverwalk in Tampa, and any event down there always turns into some fucking gaggle clusterfuck. Mm-hmm. And it was supposed to be a trick or treating thing. So we took the youngest and go down there, and he's all dressed up, and we go, and they're supposed to be vendors, but they also giving out candy. And so we go, and this line, I shit you not, the line to get to the vendors to get to the candy, I would conservatively estimate it to be about 500 people.
Whoa.
I mean, this line, there was a big grassy area, and the line went this way, curled around outside of the event circle, all the way back around to one of the main roads. I was like, guys, this isn't working. So we walked around. I mean, it was really nice. There was this, shout out to the lady on the Riverwalk that she had her kids in a stroller, and, she was like, hey, are you guys walking? Yeah, we're walking that way. She's like, hey, just set him on the front of the stroller. So she let my kid hitch a ride on the front, and she had 5 kids, and she took a bunch of candy, 4 or 5 kids, and she had took a bunch of candy out of their buckets and put it in his bucket because she knew, you know what I mean? She knew what was up. And so that was super sweet of her. And then we ended up walking around a little bit more, but anyway, they were like, oh yeah, let's go get barbecue. And I was like, I mean, it was pretty tasty. I mean, if you like salt, but
put some salt on my barbecue. Well, I like barbecue. I mean, that's good, dude, but it was too salty.
I think just as Americans, and I mean, honestly, not just Americans, a lot of cultures, we've become so desensitized to salt, the taste of salt, that you almost have to, a lot of people, they have to pile it on to even taste any of it. Whereas you could put half a teaspoon of salt in a pot of soup, and I might be like, that's a lot of salt.
Really?
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, because I think
mountain salt, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I don't add salt to anything.
Neither do I.
I just don't need to, because plenty of what you cook has already got enough sodium and stuff, and you don't need any of that fucking salt.
Right. So there's so many recipes out there that call for salt, and that's
honestly, you can just toss it. You can just leave the salt out, and a lot of times it'll taste so much better.
You're probably right.
So. Especially you get older, and you don't watch how much. So, because most people, they're not taking in enough potassium, so they end up having 5 times as much sodium as potassium.
Ew. Okay. Oh, so we should probably talk a little bit about Star Trek, at least briefly. I'm always up for some good cooking ideas and suggestions. I've been trying to expand my cooking, I guess, forte or whatnot. I've been finding some good recipes on TikTok. Actually, there have been some videos there, and show you different easy things that you can make. They're not complicated. So I'm going to be trying my hand at a shepherd's pie at some point here, which doesn't look all that difficult, but that's a video there.
Shepherd's pie is the original redneck food, bro. But people get butthurt hearing about it, but I'm telling you right now, man.
I've had it before. I mean, it's good. It's worth trying to make.
I don't even know what that is.
It's it's layers. It's layers. So the bottom layer is ground beef. Then you have Your corn, carrots, and peas is the next layer. Then mashed potatoes on top of that. And then, in at least this recipe I looked at, there's cheese on the top of it, shredded cheese on the top of it. And, well, now the ground beef has already been browned and cooked. I mean, you're not like completely cooking it all like that, but that's what it is. It's just those layers of beef, the vegetables, and mashed potatoes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. What do you guys think of the Lower Decks episode just came out a couple days ago?
We're not caught up.
Yeah, I did not watch it.
Lower Decks, I think all four of us, honestly, I think I can speak for all four of us. Andy can jump in if he thinks I'm wrong, but I think Lower Decks for us is just, it's not, obviously it's not meant to be taken so seriously because it's a cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, it's Trek, but not Trek, right?
Like, so we watch it, but a lot of times we'll wait till like we get to a point where we want to just watch all 6 episodes that we haven't seen yet, or whatever the case. Because I've only seen like the first 3 or so, 3 or 4, and so we get to a point where we're just like, we'll watch it eventually. It's not like one of the live action shows. We're like, oh, we gotta know what happens because it's serious and everything like that. Like this is a fun thing.
That's what we talked about last a couple weeks ago. That was when I realized that I had a technical mishap, which I've kicked myself for. We were talking about animated Star Trek. We just happened to get into talking about Prodigy and how it's getting picked up by Netflix. And I'm still kind of a little shocked that Prodigy got canceled in the first place. And
it is getting picked up.
Yes, it's getting picked up by Netflix. Which is, I'm happy for it. I'd rather it get picked up somewhere than flat out canceled and gone. Because honestly, when it comes to the animated Star Trek that we have now, I think I prefer Prodigy over Lower Decks.
Well, because I think Prodigy is a little more. It's sort of a kids show, but it's also. It's more to be taken seriously. There's a little bit of comedy in there, but it's more, there's a serious storyline. There's a danger, you know what I mean? There's in the Lower Decks, there's a bird fucking a robot's mouth. So it's not exactly the most serious,
I wonder why is
exactly
that?
The most serious.
Why do we find a cartoon on Nickelodeon to be more serious, more captivating than an adult oriented?
Because it's meant to be. Lower Decks is a joke. It's a fun way to do Star Trek. It's a way for them to sort of extend into a bit of a different audience, go in a different route. You know what I mean? You're in a time now where up until recently, and I say recently as probably maybe 10 years ago, the formula for shows and movies was the same shit. There was like maybe 10 different plots where you would just plug and play different characters, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we've gotten to the point now where it's not really working, right? Like nobody wants to fucking watch a movie where the protagonist girlfriend gets kidnapped and he has to go save her at the end and battle the big boss. Nobody cares about that shit anymore, you know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
And even take for example, look at the new Mario movie. Normally it's Mario rescuing Princess Peach. They moved shit around. They had Mario rescuing his brother. Princess Peach didn't need to be rescued. She was fucking shit up. So people are realizing I don't care about that anymore. The romantic comedy shit of the fucking 90s and early 2000s, that shit's dead. Nobody wants to watch that shit anymore. So they've exhausted all these options. So you see people reaching out, let's do the multiverse stuff. Let's try this different thing and all this different stuff. And they're just trying to bring in the audience, and also the market's saturated. How many streaming services are there now?
Too many.
You know what I mean? Your fucking corner dollar store probably has a streaming service if you ask. Like, yeah, man, we fucking do pay-per-view bum fights out by the dumpster. Like,
it's amazing. Yes, we've gone full circle from why we left cable, why we were not happy with the cable service and the whole cutting the cord. But at this point, when you take the streaming services that have the shows you like, add up the cost,
it's cheaper. It's
right
cheaper
back.
just to have cable.
Yeah.
Just have them on cable and have a DVR. Like, and that's the way it is. But you know what? This is, I don't want to get like super political, but this is the broken bit of capitalism that people talk about.
Yeah.
Where when you see any kind of trend, everybody's so desperate to make money off of it because nobody's happy with what they got. Everybody's getting the more and more and more. How big does your fucking yacht have to be that eventually that good idea becomes shit? Social media used to be a great idea. It's a way I can keep in touch with my family, look at these photos of the kid. And now it's, you're dumb, fuck you, racism, homophobia, all this other shit.
Yeah.
It's like everything starts great and becomes shit. And so this is, maybe not even just capitalism, just humans in general, but you start throwing in money.
That's, you know what I mean? Money is all it takes, and money makes everything work, I guess. I won't say a whole lot about the episode because you guys hadn't seen it yet, but I've been saying this whole season, I kind of felt like I felt like I'd been watching it out of obligation. At least that's what last season felt like. But this one so far, I don't mind it as much, but I do find myself missing Prodigy. And I didn't catch when it was going to be on, like actually showing on Netflix. So if either of you guys happen to hear that, feel free to correct me on that. But I'm kind of looking forward to that more.
I actually enjoyed Prodigy. I can tell you that. I think we discussed that one of the last times. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. What do you think of it compared to, say, the animated series? Is there a preference that you would have if you had to watch animated Trek?
Oh, the original animated series?
Yeah. The animated series back in the 70s.
The original animated series all day long. It's got the voices of the people that I care for. So, there's that. So you have the original people. So you have that emotion going into the characters. Or lack of emotion if you're Spock. And no, it's just, I enjoy it. But again, there's also some of that sentimental value stuff tied to it because of how I explained, my grandfather was, introduced me to the show. And so that's how I got into it. So I think it's good for a modern audience because the original animated series was a bit silly,
Yeah, it was a product of its times, that's for sure.
I mean, what you did was you now, once you do something as a cartoon in the 70s when special effects was still like some dude with a fucking smoke machine with a fake dinosaur toy, once you introduce that stuff, it's like now you can just do whatever you want. You have 50-foot tall Spock and plants that float through the air and try to catch people and talk, and you can do all these other things. So now you just have this. You're not confined within the constraints of, your budget and your special effects department.
Right.
So
just lay it all out there. Do anything you can think of at that point.
Whoever produced that was also the same people who produced Yellow Submarine. That's all I can say. And if you've never seen Yellow Submarine, you should go watch it. It's actually pretty decent. You just have to look at it through the lens of the 60s. Everybody was a moron in the 60s.
So that's
debatable that that's changed at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
Handy, have you seen Yellow Submarine? I don't think I have.
I have not seen it, no. But I can imagine.
It's just a Beatles movie.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you'd think. Like everybody was on drugs.
So the movie looks like how it sounds. A big old psychedelic trip. I think I've seen parts of it or like a preview. I don't know.
Like I said, I enjoy it, but also I kind of came from sort of a family that most people were old enough to remember those things coming out. So, that was just kind of what I was used to. But
now, are you guys still deep in Star Trek Fleet Command as your main thing you guys have been talking about?
No, we don't. No, we're trying to make that switch, and it doesn't make it easy because people like Handy keep fucking inviting people on there to talk about it. So we're like, yeah, we want to get away from it. And then Handy's like, hey, let's invite some people on for this fucking game we don't play anymore. We talk about it. But seriously, no, we quit playing. So for me, yeah, I definitely make the push I cut people off on stage all the, like, nah, dude, don't give a fuck about all that. And the game's dead. Go find some voice chat to get into.
Most of our audience comes from that game, though. So,
yeah, they do. But hanging on to something we're not doing just because we want people to show up, like that's how we shift to to kind of a newer audience. If you look at fucking things like Joe Rogan, if you ever listen to his old shit, he was all talking about like martial arts and all that stuff. That's all he talked about. Look at him now. He's inviting people on to talk about fucking aliens and shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if Joe Rogan would have just stayed doing what he did, he wouldn't have the following that he has. But because he branched out. So
that's a fair point.
That's why, it's fucking boring. And it's evidenced by the fact that we'll get people to show up. And even those conversations like, oh, Star Trek Fleet Command. And then they're like, oh, wait, this is the same exact shit that happens every time ever when somebody gets upset. Oh, this is boring. And then people clear out. Unless it's Tuesday night and they're drinking, then they'll just be drunk and talk shit. But
I hardly play anymore because all it is a cash grab. It's let's make money and throw a Star Trek skin on it.
Well, that's all of it. I mean, for fuck's sake, the damn the game that I play, the Dragon Ball. But at least there's like, as long as you have a good connection, there's skill involved in it, and there's like type matchups, and there's like all that stuff. So it's not just I'm gonna click this and hope I win. No, you can influence the outcome based on your movements and what you're tapping and what you're doing. And so you could have an inferior character, but if your skill is much greater than the next person, it can overcome that advantage. So at least I have that going for me. But yeah, it's still, all those mobile games it's just a cash grab.
I've heard it's gotten even worse. Like much worse.
What happens when those games start dying and they know it? They don't want to admit it. They start doing the craziest things they can and just pulling shit out to try to milk as much as they can before they deadline the game. It happens all the time. Happened to one of the Naruto games. That's just what happens. So,
well, you got to make money off stuff. That's what it's all about, and that was why I kind of got out of playing that as much. Like I'll log in here or there to get my it doesn't matter rewards kind of thing, but when Star Trek's just been so capitalized on now, and these game companies, I think that it's a travesty that they take the intellectual property and they hold it back with all these paywalls. I mean, the game is literally about how much do you want to spend to be good, and there's progression that you cannot make unless you open up the wallet and play. I mean, there is a really like an actual barrier where if you're free to play, you're not going to get past a certain point. And I think that kind of business practice is it's pretty shady and kind of shitty if you ask me. Sure, there's the whole pay to win. We know about pay to win, and that's what this game is. But to not even be able to have the chance of progression because of a paywall, I think that there should be some kind of oversight, really. There needs to be some company or entity that can tell others what you're doing is shitty practice. These regulations say you can't do that. You have to have good customer support. Huh?
That's just more government. You don't want that.
Yeah, I guess you're right. More government. That's all that is now game developers with their hands in the pockets of.
You know that a lot of the games that we play, there's a reason why a lot of them aren't offered in certain parts of the world, because there are certain countries who have restrictions on a lot of the ways that where they exploit people's addictive traits and try to exploit the addiction center in your brain. So that's why a lot of these games are not available in other countries, and people have to play them either through a VPN or something like that.
Really? What are some of these responsible countries? I want to know.
So, like, for example, the game that I played, Dragon Ball Legends. So Dragon Ball Legends, actually, at the very beginning of the game, when you first start playing, it says, hey, this game is free to play. It can be. Or you can also spend currency to gain an edge. That being said, the value of the in-game currency may shift throughout the game. You do not have to buy it. Everything will be available for free to play. However, blah, 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 blah. So it gives you that sort of that disclaimer. And the one thing that it does, which games like STFC and stuff like that don't do, and I'm not sure how they do it, how they get around it, is in that game, if you're going to do a random pull, like you do in STFC, you do a chest, right? You open a chest and there's a random chance of getting whatever. In Dragon Ball Legends, it tells you what the chance is, the percentage of each individual character. You can go down the list as far as you want, and you can see the percent chance that you have of each individual character. And then overall, the type of character, whether it's what rarity it is. You have a 10% to pull this rarity. You have 20% to pull this one. Then you have, whatever percent pulls. So it actually does that. And it actually lays it out. It's like you can spend it here or here. And the different pulls you do is based on the percentages. So if you want this particular character, you may spend your currency here. But if you want this one, there's a higher percentage over here. So that's one of the reasons I even really got into that game, is because at least they go that far. That's saying, okay, well, it's going to be hard to get, and this is how hard it is. Instead of Star Trek Fleet Command, where we're not going to tell you what the percentage chance is. Don't ask. And it's, isn't it funny that after you finally grind that one ship or whatever, that all of a sudden every other time you're pulling a bunch of blueprints for that ship or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, I think in 1 year after I got my jellyfish, 2 weeks after I got my jellyfish, and I ground it down for like close to a year to get those blueprints. It was like 8 or 9 months. The 2 weeks after that, I got a full pull in an epic chest. A month after that, I got a full pull. The very next week, I got a full pull. 3 months later, I got a full pull. And then I think I got another couple like full pulls throughout that fucking year. I was opening the same number of chests.
Unbelievable.
I was doing, you know what I mean? Nothing changed. So you can't convince me that shit's set in stone. You know what I mean? I think there's certain parameters they change, and they don't want to tell you because that's what they do. So.
Yeah, and you can't even get any return on investment on anything. They keep that down as much as possible. You've got, excuse me. I mean, how many of each of the common starter ships can you make? Probably a couple hundred of each of those, but it's not even worth making them and leveling them and then scrapping them, because you don't get out of it what you put in. And like, that's what they do, is they make sure that you get less out of it than what you put in. And the other thing that I think is pretty shitty is that when they have these things like these ships or officers or whatever gimmick it is that you have to spend $100 on, you get that one item you want, and the rest of it is filler. Is bullshit. Like,
so they can justify charging you for it, or try to. Hey, don't you want 48 trillion par steel? And it's like, no, motherfucker, I got 48 gagillion. I don't need.
Yeah, so, I've got a Googleplex of par steel. I don't need any more of it.
I have a goddamn infinite symbol. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good. But par steel definitely gets gold plated as you get higher. But yeah, there's a lot of that shit, and people are realizing it, and that's why people are quitting the game. Obviously, I saw, I went to go quit the game a while back, and then I logged on to like do something I can't remember, and I saw they had a Harrison was available, and I was like, oh shit, damn. I was like, well, let me go ahead and get that motherfucker for no reason, and then that's what got me back in. And then I think end of last year, beginning of this year or something. I think it was end of last year. I decided to quit for good, and then I fucking gave my account away. So
You gave it away.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was the only way I could stop playing is by giving my account away.
yeah, I gave it away. And the only thing that hasn't happened is that we haven't swapped the email around because I was like, just find out, because I told G has it now. So I told G, I was like, hey, just if you figure out what we need to do and just tell me what to do, because I'm not going through all that because I don't fucking care enough. But do that so we can change it to your email, and then that way you can have it. You know what I mean? So that way, if you need to later on change the password or whatever, you can just fucking have the email. And we just never got around to that. But yeah, I just fucking gave it away. So that was probably the best thing I did.
I'm ashamed to say.
And now I played. And now I use that time to play like Dragon Ball Legends and other video games. So woo, okay.
Something you like doing more.
Well, like I said, I mean, at least this one, they're gonna lube it up and warn you before they put it in. You know what I'm saying? they're not gonna catch you in the kitchen trying to pick up that blueberry you dropped. You know what I'm saying?
Surprise!
I mean, do you spend money on the game though?
Do I do what?
Do you spend money on Dragon Ball game?
On Legends, yeah, I would say I spend, because every 2 weeks there's a thing that comes out, and it's like a mission sheet. You do so much, spend so much energy, and it's just shit you accomplish through the normal course of the game. You don't have to do anything extra, and that's like $7 or $8, and so I do that twice a month. So that's like $16, and then every now and then they'll have like a sale, and it's like $7.99 for like 1,000 chrono crystals. So I would say like in a month I might spend anywhere between $25 to $30. So nothing crazy. There was one where they had this like ridiculous sale, and I had a little extra scratch laying around. I think I spent $50 or $60 because it was like a $40 thing, but it was like the value of it was normally like $100, and I was like, oh, I'll get it. And then I didn't get anything else for the rest of the month, So yeah, I was on average it's like $25, $30 a month.
And
within Star Trek Fleet Command would get you like 200 Latinum. So.
Right. Something that's not much value for the money. And for me, I'm embarrassed at the amount of money I spent on that game.
I am a lower end spender as far as the spenders, and I've still probably spent more money than you.
It's
over the course of the game.
It's possible. And the thing that
if I could have, I'll put it to you this way: if I could have that money back now, I could go right now and buy a decent used car.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Not private, like from a dealership. I could buy a decent used car. It wouldn't be anything super spiffy, but like it would be modern. I'll put it to you that way.
There's got to be, that's a crime though. That's a crime as to what they're able to pilfer out of people. And what got me to stop, and I think that for everyone that gets their gambling part of their brain to quit doing it, or at least it's what got me, was that you find out no matter how much you spend, unless you're willing to spend, say, like $50,000 to $60,000, $70,000 on a game, it's not going to matter.
The goalpost
keep moving.
Is on wheels.
Yeah.
The goalpost is on wheels, and it continuously moves. So yeah, this is what I was talking about. So if you look, I don't know if you can see, you can see there's different, characters that have a better chance of being pulled.
Yeah.
And then so if you actually go in here and hit the Z power list, it gives you the percentage of what you can get. And then if you go to the actual list, if you look, it'll actually tell you the percentage of each individual character.
Yep.
All the way down the list. And so like I decided to check it out. When I saw that, I was like, man, it's just kind of honest. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you have a 0.5% chance of pulling that character you want. So if you want to spend your currency on this is what's available. And so I think that gives you as a person, whether you're free to play or whether you're actually spending money, you can actually make an informed decision about where you want to spend that in-game currency.
At least making an informed decision is the right thing to do. To give people the opportunity. That's
all that I ask. It's not your responsibility to, make sure I get the latest and greatest, but you are offering it free to play. And then you are showing me what is available in each of those scenarios and what the chance is. So that's why I was kind of like, I don't mind dropping $25-$30 a month on something like that, because I can see exactly what's available and what I can get. So, yeah, fuck Fleet Command. That's why I don't play that shit anymore. Since we don't have that much Star Trek stuff to talk about, because we've gone through the other things. Something that's science fiction related. Fans of Fallout. So the Fallout, they're going to have a series on Prime.
Oh, really? I like Fallout.
And so I looked into it, pretty heavy, and I went to some of the different sources, and apparently it is supposed to follow the canon. So it's not supposed to be like Halo, where they just made up their own shit,
Right.
We're going to take creative liberties because we're artists. Fucking poop. So, yeah, apparently it's supposed to follow the canon. So that's going to be really interesting, because I'm a big Fallout fan as well. So looking forward to that. April.
It comes out
Dragon
when?
Ball drops next year. It's supposed to be April.
April. Okay.
Yep. April next year is when it's supposed to start coming out. And then the new Dragon Ball show is supposed to be coming out next year, toward the end of the year, I think.
You're leaving Star Trek for Dragon Ball and Fallout? You like it more than Star Trek? Do you feel like you're getting moved away from Star Trek?
No, it's just we're done with the live action stuff for now. Yeah, I mean, you can try to talk about Lower Decks, but
there's not much there. I think Handy was on that.
Yeah, I think over the past, up until recently, over the past year, there was plenty of Trek stuff to talk about. The shows were coming out, bam, 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 bam. News, new shows, new seasons, when they're dropping, what are our predictions, what are we going to talk about? So there's a lot of stuff to do, but we're in this lull zone where it's all you have is sort of that Lower Decks, and Lower Decks does not provide enough substance.
It doesn't.
We spend an hour a week talking about. So what do? Hey, let's talk about some old shit we've already talked about, and it's
Lower Decks.
I guess something we could talk about. I was going to say, I guess something else we could bring up is the fact that we had one of the shows leave the SPN.
Right.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, it was. Excuse me. Sorry. The Duras sisters, they were on with us briefly, and then
be right back.
Then had to step down. Which real life happens, and there are times where you're able to commit to a certain thing, but then realize that you've kind of overextended yourself and not able to really put into it what you'd hoped or what you'd like to, which I totally get that. Anymore these days, podcasting can be, it's something you do as a hobby, and
yeah,
it's not, I wouldn't say that it's hard to commit the time, but maybe I guess it feels like it can be.
I think more often what it really is people have varying levels of interest in actually doing it.
Right. Yeah.
So if you can't drum up the enthusiasm to get on and do it, then yeah, I mean, that's hard. I mean, especially with real life stuff going on.
And that's the thing is it's the real life stuff that comes up, because I don't know about you, but it feels like there's not much time in between the quote unquote stuff, the real life stuff. And it makes it a challenge to be able to keep up with some of these things that you like to do as hobbies. For example, all the Star Trek stuff.
Oh yeah. But there's also habit,
got to make it habit forming.
Exactly. It has to be habit forming. That's why we typically do same time, same day, once a week. And if you can keep that habit up, then it's easy to maintain. However, if you break that habit, your mind just goes elsewhere.
Right. Yeah, it does. And it takes that commitment for that habit also. And work schedules, that can be a big pain in the ass also, because there are times where when you have so many people to try to get coordinated on a particular day and time, which I think if you have some options, that helps. But, I wish they could have stayed with us longer. But, you never know. Hopefully they'll be able to come back around and try again and recommit to the idea. But it's like anything else. You start a group, you start a project kind of thing, and some folks are ready for it. They're in that place. They're aligned for it. Others are, they're not able to put in it what they'd like to.
They like the idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
They like the idea of it. They just don't like what it's going to take to do it, or they severely underestimate it. Look, one thing that we need to normalize as human beings, we need to get out of the habit of doing, is fucking lying to one another. Man, I'm sorry I didn't answer your text message. I was so busy. When in actuality, I saw your text message, I just didn't feel like getting into a conversation with you. And so I'll tell people that. I tell people that all the time. Yeah, I saw that you called, but I wasn't in a condition, or I wasn't in a space to have a conversation.
Right. I just wasn't in the mood. I didn't feel like it.
Right. But we got to lie to people. I was so busy. Oh my God, I just had so much going on. And I've gotten to the point now where I just call people out about it. Handy, he'll be like, yeah, man, I saw you called, but I was eating dinner. I didn't want to talk. Or, and that's what we need to do to one another. We need to tell the truth. We make time for the things that are important to us. Every now and then there are some things that are unforeseeable to get in the way, but we make time for the things that are important to us. And we know that. And we acknowledge that, but in certain circumstances, we like to forget that, that happens, or we purposefully just allow it to go. And I say we need to normalize calling people out. Oh man, I was just too busy. I'm too busy for this. Just say that it's not high enough on the priority list.
Exactly. Because we know that's what it is. I think for the most,
hey, if it's just got to be me and Big J up here, we'll just do our own shit.
Yeah.
I'm yeah, I got plenty to talk about. And it just, there's varying degrees of interest. There's been times where I've drugged my ass on stage. I don't feel like doing it now. In our show, there's 4 of us. So 1 or 2 of us can always be gone. There's not a problem there. And that's why we have as many as we do. There's sometimes I just don't want to I'll go in there and I'll listen. I'll hear what's going on. I'm like, fuck this show. And I'll close out Discord and leave. And sometimes Handy's done it. He's jumped up there and then he's left. He's like, yeah, I listened to too much of that bullshit. I didn't want to listen anymore. I'm going to play a game or something.
Is that true, Handy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's true.
And we tell each other that much. There's no lying.
We're just honest.
Yeah. I didn't want to go. That was it. Handy be like, you busy? Nope. You want to show up? Correct. And that is, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that I respect that more than bullshitting.
Yeah.
Because I know what Handy does on Sunday.
A whole lot of nothing.
He ain't doing shit. He might have like a project he's working on, maybe on one.
I'm doing nothing and I'm keeping it that way.
Yeah, he might be fucking around, but I know that motherfucker's probably sitting in the goddamn in front of his computer with his coffee, with his howling ass fucking dogs.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's why the bio, which for anybody listening, if you like his biography, I wrote that.
Go to our website.
I'm the writer.
Starfleetpodcast.net, and you'll see the icons for the different podcast members in the group. Click on Trek Talk and you can see Handy's bio. So that was crafted by Strange Kirk, who's a good writer.
A lot of people don't realize I'm a staff writer for an organization. So I write articles.
Oh, okay. Nice. I don't think, if you told me that and I forgot, I apologize. But
no, because that's real life stuff. I don't mix too much of that in there. So right. in my real life, I'm a staff writer.
Okay.
For an organization, a wonderful organization. I'll tell you about it later. I don't want to mention some of these weirdos here.
Right.
But yeah, in real life, I'm a writer. So, and I have many articles that have been published. So, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So, I like writing. It can be all right trying to come up with something.
I know.
Creative.
I actually, contrary to popular belief, I actually do have some life accomplishments. I was on the cover of a magazine last year too. So
holy shit, were you? Oh man, would it be something that would have been like seen at the magazine stand at a grocery store or the book section somewhere?
I think it depends on where you go. I'll tell you that my face was on the cover of 100,000 copies. I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
So not super, super big, but where's your magazine cover, motherfucker?
I'm gonna have to look now. I'll see if I can.
I'll show you. I'll send it to you.
Okay. Okay. Great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because now I want to go to the store and look for that.
Yeah, that was a byproduct of some of my writing and some of my. I hate to use the term activism because it has such a negative connotation now, but I mean that's kind of what it was. Mm-hmm. And nothing like fucking climate, and it was for like health and wellness. What I do for a living. So, but some of that stuff, they reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, do you want to be in this magazine?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. That sounds really good." And then like maybe 2 hours later, they're like, "Actually, I just got off the phone with my editor. Do you want to be on the cover of the magazine?" And I was like,
"The fuck."
Yes. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love to be on the cover of a magazine. Very nervous for me, right? Because I've always been I've tried to be a pretty private person. Mm-hmm. And so like, you feel very exposed. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, I'm on the cover of a magazine now. Like, it feels really weird.
That's awesome, dude. So, I would love something like that.
It was pretty cool. It was a really interesting experience.
Nice. Okay.
The people who did it, the organization that, the media company that publishes the magazine, really like they really did have their ducks in a row. Like everything was neat and tidy and uniform as you would expect from a professional organization. So, but anyway, enough about me.
Awesome. That's nice. Well, if you guys, cause I know I'm going to have to get on the road soon. It's that soccer season. And
I don't have anything else, man. If that's all we got, that's all we got.
Yeah. I think that's all we got. You're right, because there's not a whole lot. When it's Lower Decks is the only thing happening in Star Trek, then there's not much happening in Star Trek. Basically.
I'm not saying Lower Decks is a bad show. I enjoy the show, but it's like it's
doesn't have the substance.
It's filler. It's Star Trek filler.
It is. It's a reference show filler.
Filler. It's a filler episode for some entertainment and some extra content. It's like whatever your favorite TV show is. It's like their Christmas special. It doesn't really mean all that much, and it's not going to be any story changing things. It's just a silly thing so you can enjoy some more content because you've been waiting around, so they can put a little more in the needle for you.
One big Christmas special. Handy, any burning desires that you've got before we close out?
No, sir.
If you got any burning, you need to take a couple of those pills.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining with me today. And for those in our audience that came in as well, that's the Starfleet Podcast Network for this month. And we'll see you again next month. And hopefully there will be some better Star Trek that's on TV for us to give us something to talk about.
Shout out to Slot, who's always in the friggin' audience.
Yes. Thank you for being in the audience. We appreciate you. All right, guys, you take it easy.
Kirk.